Despite the fact that there's this mythically high failure rate for restaurants, it is very tough. But if you go into it clear-eyed about what the challenges are, and you've orchestrated your life and your day-to-day to be able to meet those head-on, it's not easier, but your chances of success, I think, are much greater.
So Ryan, hey, thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
Appreciate it. It's great. So you've been in the restaurant hospitality industry for many years. You got three years, and three amazing restaurants.
Are all still open.
All still open. Roswell, Alpharetta. So give me your backstory. I'm interested in your journey. Like, how'd you get into it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a local guy. I went to Roswell High School. We moved down here from New York when I was maybe 9 years old. My dad worked for
Whereabouts
Delta.
in New York?
So I'm born in Huntington.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we lived there, 0 to 9.
Yep.
Dad worked for Delta, so they moved us here right before the Olympics, and we grew up elementary, middle school, high school here. Go Roswell Hornets. Yeah. Then graduated from Roswell, went to school in upstate New York, lived in New York City for a little while and kicked around some restaurant stuff. I did restaurant consulting, which felt a little weird being 21 and trying to tell restaurateurs what to do.
So at 21, you got into the business?
Well, I got into the business when I was 14. So there's a local restaurant by the old Milton High School called The Roasted Garlic. Mm-hmm. And they actually had one here in Clock Tower Place right down the road. But anyway, so I worked in that family all through high school, cooking and serving and doing all sorts of back of house stuff. And at one point my dad said, look, if you really like restaurants, there's a school for that. And so I said, okay. So we explored Cornell University's School of Hospitality Management, looked at restaurant stuff there. Then graduated restaurant consulting out of college. Felt weird about that after about 2 years. And so I went and opened a restaurant called Myelino with Union Square Hospitality Group from Danny Meyer. And that certainly wasn't mine. I was just I was on the opening team. Mm-hmm. So there was 9 front of house managers when we opened. And I was like the operations specialist. A great title because it doesn't mean anything. And basically that meant I was like the office troll who, while everyone else was having fun upstairs, they had me doing, tip sheets, inventory control. We did the restaurant Myelino as well as the rooftop and room service. So every case of carrots we got in was split 3 ways. So I had to build a spreadsheet that would say, okay, we got $100 worth of carrots in, $80 of that is for Myelino, 10 is for the roof, 10 is for housekeeping or room service rather.
Yeah.
So all that sort of foundational nuts and bolts operations level stuff, I kind of did all those back end, and it was a great boot camp in here's how you do restaurants.
Right. Well, and I mean, it's a huge and important piece,
Yeah.
You got to kind of know where everything,
100%.
Where the money's going, where the products are going.
They call it the restaurant business for a reason.
Exactly.
There's 2 parts of that.
Right. Well, it's funny because in the movie business, we say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the shiny lights and the fun, but there's business involved.
Totally.
You need to make money, and we need to know the costs of how to do this. So.
And restaurants and movies share a lot of similarities. There's a lot of purple in that Venn diagram. Like you look at, restaurants still have this allure. There's this glamour to it. There's a creative element, and everybody likes to think of themselves as creative, and everyone's got some strength in that world. But I could practice basketball my whole life, but I'm never going to be as good as LeBron. So if you're born with a talent for it, or an eye for it, or whether it's making movies or making restaurants, I think the magic is when you both have that passion and you happen to be decent enough at it that you can make some money, share your skills, and bring other people to the party.
Yeah, and it's always like, when you're in an occupation that it's your natural abilities, you're really good at it, and you enjoy it. It's like that pull thing. So
totally.
Like, you're gonna have struggles along the way, no matter what you do. But if you've got that pulling sensation to where it's not like you're trying to push yourself, because that doesn't last. If you're being pulled in because it's something that you're really good at and you're passionate about, it's gonna get you through those hurdles.
Oh yeah. And I started in kitchens. I was going to do kitchen stuff, and then I had a culinary internship at the Ritz-Carlton where this old, I think he was Russian or maybe Eastern European, but he's grizzled veteran of the industry, had been a chef, and chefs listening to this will know, that's tough. You're picking up cases of things, awkward reaches, you're bending this way, it's on your feet all the time, it's hot. Yep. So it's a life. And he said, look, I want you to think carefully before you go into this business, and then don't do it. I was like, okay, Vigo, whatever his name is. And he's like, because if you don't have just this burning passion for it, it will wear you out.
Right.
And I think that's true of a lot of things, is that passion isn't enough. And our generation, I think, has grown up being told, follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can make a life at it.
Right.
But the sort of seedy underbelly of that is Passion doesn't pay the bills, and if that's all you have, it's really going to grind you down, and yet it is still necessary.
Right.
You still have to have it to have that pull, as you mentioned, because when you've been on your feet 14 hours a day in a restaurant opening, and you just got your ass kicked.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say
Yeah,
ass.
no,
You just got your butt kicked. You got to have something that pulls you back.
Right.
And it's not going to be the fact that you are good at clearing a table.
Right.
So you got to have the passion, but it alone is not enough.
And it's funny that you are right. The similarities between the movie business and the restaurant business, because there's extremely long hours on a movie set. Same thing, like the restaurant industry. I mean, that's especially if you're an owner operator. I can imagine those hours are just brutal sometimes.
Yeah, you're just there, and you don't really get to turn it off. Like, first of all, you probably can't enjoy your movies.
We see it all
I hate
differently
eating
now.
in my restaurants.
Yeah.
People will be like, "Oh, let's go eat at Table Maine," and you're like, "I'll absolutely do that. I'll have a good time." But the whole time I'm going to be, and so we're talking about things, and would you just give me 1 second? Can someone water that table, please? Yeah. So it's just a drag to eat at your own restaurants after a while. Yeah. So you're pulled to it. It still has that glamour. It has that creative aspect people really like, and they get to thinking in your mind's eye, man, that'd be so cool, and it would. But there's a road to get there.
Yeah. And I think when you have a passion, you have that passion, do it. Always put that business sense behind it. It's like, all right, how is this going to work? How are you going to make money? I mean, I just think it's so cool that like early on you were able to get the nuts and bolts first. Yeah. And then the passion came along with it. It's cool to see.
I think they kind of grew in tandem.
Yeah.
But a restaurant is just a bundle of a million different interconnected processes. It's a factory, right? We're the only factory manufacturing plant in the world where we receive our raw goods in the morning, we do stuff to them, then we serve them to you, you eat them, and you pay us all in 24 hours. Wow. So managing all of those moving pieces and all the things that can go wrong and all the million different points of contact people send out into their world when they're there, all of that has to be orchestrated in such a way. And when it's all firing on a Saturday night and you're like busting it and it's working, that's a feeling that you love, that cockpit mentality of like, damn, that feels good.
Yeah, everything's moving.
Right,
it's just
right.
one unit. It's a team.
So you're on a set, the lighting guy's doing his thing and the actor's hitting his lines and the key grip is gripping, whatever they grip.
Right.
That's a good day.
Everybody, and that excites me too. So when I'm on a set and everybody is in their own little specialty, and you've hired these people for a reason because they're great at that one specific piece. But you can't have a finished product without that one specific piece and everybody operating as one unit. And it's really cool that you got people running around the background, stuff like that. But in the restaurant industry, same thing. Yeah. I was at a restaurant where I was like actually watching them work in the kitchen and stuff like that, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, the orchestration of it.
Yes. Like it's literally like it's almost like a dance. They've planned it out, like crossing and all this other stuff. Like there's so much people don't realize that goes on behind the scenes when they just see the food that's in front of them.
And it's an interesting point that ideally they see none of the work.
Right.
Working for Danny Meyer, he always said, we're like swans, right? All you see is the beautiful, graceful kind of moving through but underneath the water, those ugly black legs are kicking like crazy. Yeah. And that's what we immerse ourselves in. My mechanic opens up the hood, he's gonna see things I don't see, and that's the way it should be for restaurants. You shouldn't notice any of that.
Right.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
We were just having this conversation at work the other day about, speaking of our world that we see, you guys have your own jargon in film and production?
Oh gosh, yeah.
What's like your favorite piece of set slang?
I gotta take a 10-1.
Gotta take a 10-1, all right. What does that mean?
I gotta use the bathroom.
And why? What's the origin?
I honestly, I don't know. We've been saying it for so long.
And are there like multiple origin stories for how that came? For us, that's like 86. We say 86 something.
Yeah, right.
There's like 10 different competing stories why that happened, and my favorite is the mafia one. But 86 is.
Yeah, and then I've noticed that too because actually there was a couple people that that work for our company that worked in the restaurant industry before, and they're singing these saying these terms, and I'm like, that came from the restaurant industry because that ain't movie lingo.
But sometimes you hear one and it like catches. Yeah. Like I'll suggest one for you. We've got one that's called, it's heard. So if I go to you, hey, can you clear 401? You're gonna go heard. And it's so elegant. It means so many things. It means I heard what you said. Yeah. I'm gonna do what you asked me to do, and we don't need to talk about this anymore.
Right.
Because there's a point on a set where everything is moving right now. Saturday night at 8:30. I don't need the story. Don't give me the whole hey. I'm doing this other tables thing right now. I think 401's ready to be clear. I'm not entirely sure, but if you could go over there, I don't need that. I just need, hey, clear 401, heard. So I use that in my daily life now with people. Heard? What is that? Sorry. Yes, I will do that.
Right. Yeah. It's funny when you're working on set, or because I work in front of the camera as well. So sometimes as an actor, you're saying these lines so many times over and over again, and a lot of times, like I'll be in a conversation with somebody and I'll be like, I actually just said that in a movie, or I actually just said that exact phrase in a film I just did, because you say it so many times.
Oh yeah.
You gotta make that disconnect. It's like, oh wait, I'm back in the real world.
We'll do like go out with friends or whatever, and they'll tell me you're being Restaurant Ryan right now. Like if I see you in another restaurant, it's just ingrained in me to go, hey, how are you? Is everything, can I bring you anything? You're okay. It's just weird. It's hard to shed that skin.
Are you able to go to other restaurants and like sit and just enjoy a meal? Or are you looking around and be like, I can't believe they're doing that?
I'll notice everything.
Yeah.
But I can definitely enjoy that. I just don't want it to be mine. Yeah. Like you go to movies, you still enjoy the movie, but you'll still see like that was a little weird, or that script scene died. So I can notice everything. And someone had a quote that was, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's like good artists borrow, great artists steal outright, or something like that. And I think restaurants, part of why I make it a point to go out to eat, is you got to have your game challenged a little bit. So you don't get any better by playing with people who are worse than you. So you get better by going out and seeing what other guys are up to, seeing what you can borrow. I love the way they cleared that table, or I love that they use this kind of carafe or whatever it is. Maybe you bring that back. So I think that element of part of your job is to go see movies.
Yes.
So you can go, man, I love what they did with that camera work just there. And then maybe you incorporate a little bit of that into your thing next time.
Yeah. So you go out to other restaurants and just experience. I guess that's part of your job.
Oh, 100%.
Kind of see what's going on. Do you travel much? Do you go?
I try and take one big trip a year, and then I'll take, our age, how many friends of yours are getting married a year? It's like everyone's doing a thing. So this year I'm going to my cousin's wedding in London. I'm going to try and make that a bit of a trip. You don't want to go all the way out there. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine got married in Thailand. We were definitely going to make a trip out of that. I went to Tokyo last year and Kyoto. So I try and work that in. Restaurants, a friend of mine told me a story, operations head of Waffle House told me, he said, restaurants are a lot like a farm. You just got to spend a lot of time down in there, or in the barn, or the land, and the animals go to shit real fast. So the thing about a restaurant is just physically being there is so important, not only because you got to make the rounds and touch those tables and greet those regulars and make sure they know you're still on hand, but the staff has got to see you can still clear a table.
Right.
You can still, it's sort of a trope to say, oh, I'll clean bathrooms. I clean bathrooms all the time.
Right.
If I go in the bathroom and I'm not going to go find someone else and be like, hey, clean this. You do it right then. Do the job that needs doing.
So, all right, you have 3 restaurants now. So you can't be in 3 places at once. So how did you start? You started with one, and just give me that journey. Like, how did you get? How do you manage all that?
So I moved back down from New York in February 2011, and opened Table in Maine just a couple days after my 26th birthday. And I talked to a lot of up and coming, whether they're restaurateurs or people who want to do a thing. And I always tell them that the virtue of being so young when you do it is that you can be very selfish with your time. So opening Table in Maine so early in my life afforded me the opportunity to, that was it. Like I wrote every check and made most of the decisions. I had a partner, he was great at the time. We hung out and did that. That was what we did. And it could be that focused because I didn't have a wife or a mortgage or kids and whatnot.
Right.
So I think that there are some drawbacks of being young, but those are way counterbalanced by the fact that if you start early, you can be totally absorbed in what you're doing and not have to feel guilty about I haven't seen my kids all day.
Right.
So it was, I'm not going to say easy at all. I romanticize that because it was 50 years ago now. And I remember, gosh, if I could be in all 3 at once all the time, that would be good.
Yep.
I do have a secret weapon. I have a clone. My brother is my older brother. He came down from New York to do our beverage service, and Dan is his name. He runs Osteria. He does a great job.
Cool.
So he can be that sort of point of contact for guests when they come in. They know, okay, Dan's here. Dan's an owner of that one and Coalition as well, in Alpharetta. So having his presence there is a huge help. Matt at Table Maine, Jess and Woody and all these characters who take part in what we do, I'm very lucky that I keep them for a good long time. Jess has been with me for almost 7 years. Laura, the executive sous chef at Osteria, has been with me for almost 8 years. Jennifer, who runs Coalition, has been with me for 3+ and was at Osteria before. So all of this to say that keeping the key managers there makes my life just a lot easier, and I can afford to then try and trip throughout the 3 of them So I can be that guy who sees you at the bar, hey, welcome back, and I can go, slightly, if we do this a little bit, I can realign where I need to and plug back in. And I don't always have to be the guy who turns on the lights. That's been a huge help.
And that's the biggest thing is teaming. The team that you build. Like companies are not run by one person. They're run by a team. And if your team is all on point, you have a very successful company. And I think that's key. And it's funny because word on the street, I've heard that you do something a little bit different with your employees, that you offer benefits.
Yeah, so we learned early on that keeping those key people is huge, and you're in a business here. We were talking earlier, finding and keeping good people is hard. And I say, look, forget about good people. I need people right now. So when you find those good people, Woody Back, who runs a kitchen at Table Maine, he's a partner at Coalition. When we find those people who help make our world go round, we got to keep them. So we put together this program we call Employalty, because I'm a big fan of puns. And basically it says, look, we're a 3-unit restaurant group, right? I'm not IBM. I can't offer the most Cadillac healthcare plan of all, but I can do some things, and what we can do now, we're gonna do. So that way we kind of walk the walk and talk the talk of keeping good people is important. Here's how we're gonna show that. So this Employalty program, we have everything from 4 weeks of paid maternity and paternity leave. One of our key guys, Mark, just availed himself of that a little while ago. And that alone, like paternity and paternity leave, there are some huge companies that aren't doing that. So we have bereavement pay and sick days and 401k benefits and all these things that historically restaurants have not been leading the pack in HR benefits. But we said, look, this stuff is important to our people. We want them to see that we're trying, and as we grow, this will get better, and we'll bulk this out. But I think they've responded to the fact that, man, if I stay here for a year, I'm a full-time employee, I can get a 401k, medical benefits, dental, all these things that quote unquote real jobs have that restaurants typically have fallen behind on.
Right. So there's like a trial period. Is that how you bring them?
Yeah. So there's HR government stuff about what qualifies as full time, and I think it's averaging 30 hours a week and blah blah blah. But there's basically a litmus test that says, look, if you've made the choice that you're going to make this your thing and we're your people, I want you to see that from us as well. Loyalty is one of our 5 key traits. That might be because I'm Italian, but we've said, okay, and this is how we're going to live that.
Just curious.
Grandfather's from Milan, grandmother's from Naples.
Okay. So I'm Napolitan as well. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Let's talk about that. So some of the restaurants, is that inspired, like your Italian restaurant? Like, how did you come up with the meals? Like
so the story of the Italian restaurant, which is Osteria Matone, just down the street here in Canton Street. That one turned 7 years old this year. Just turned 6. I may have that wrong. I'm getting older. But that one we started, less than 2 years after Table Maine. Our landlord, Doug Curling, who's been a huge part of our success, came to us and said, "Look, guys, I want to, buy another piece of property down the road. It's going to be a restaurant because that's the way the world is going. So, do you guys want to do an Italian restaurant?" And we weren't ready, but I think with restaurants, there's always a push to say, "Look, I'm either going to get ready or someone else is going to be competing with me down the street." So we took a look at, what do we think we're good at? What do we think we can do well? And what do we think Canton Street is missing? And the answer at the time was more high-end Italian. People want to push us into that fine dining. I don't think it's true fine dining, but we got tablecloths, so here we are. So we said, okay, we're going to be Italian, but we made a very conscious decision to say we're not going to be Italian-American. I am Italian-American, love that food, grew up eating it, but that's not what we're doing there. So you won't find, chicken Parmesan. You won't find those historic, classic Italian dishes, Italian-American dishes. We wanted to do a true Roman focus. But this issue of authenticity is a very squidgy issue in restaurants, as I'm sure it is in film. Like, what does being authentic mean? Because if you go to a guy from Texas and you say, what's authentic barbecue? You will get a very different answer than if you go to a guy from North Carolina, from Georgia, from St. Louis. So, incorporating all these things, we said, okay, well, to hone our lens of what we think is authentic, I at least want to go and eat the food and see the sights and be able to say, well, you may think this is not authentic, but this is how we had it when we went to Rome. So we took 7 days, we ate in 31 restaurants in 7 days over a trip to Rome, Bologna, Montepulciano, and Naples. And we ate ourselves silly, eating, pizza from Naples. It didn't suck. It wasn't bad. But, we joke, and I'm never going to complain about it, but these things, you eat like 3 dinners a day, you got to be moving. So it takes a lot of planning. I made this map because I'm a huge nerd, and on the map was, I pinpointed all of these, okay, here are the places we got to go. Your viewers might be going, this Google Maps guy, but I wasn't that good yet. So we had, like Trastevere and Testaccio, we had all these, like, okay, we're here, we're gonna hit these 6 restaurants. And boom, 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 we hit them all, and then we were able to at least say, well, we had 12 different versions of tonarelli, cacio e pepe in Rome. We've synthesized what we've learned, and this is our version. So when people say, oh, well, this, you need to be authentic, we go, well, this is our authentic.
So I got this question for you. So I'm from Jersey, right? So you're from New York, right? We're both Italian.
We're in Jersey?
Bloomfield.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
It's all
whatever.
right.
Hey, it's a suburb of well, whatever. Close enough. I can hit a stone.
Jersey and Long Island, we have to have a little tip for tat.
Exactly. So, but I got this question here for you. All right. There's this big thing, and pretty much only the Italians are going to understand this from the Northeast. Is it gravy or is it sauce?
We always called it sauce.
Did you?
Yeah, we always called it sauce, and my
Even in
Italian
New York?
American grandma would make it. And I've heard the gravy, and I've had this conversation before. Well, I've been told that was odd.
Okay.
But we've always called it sauce.
That's interesting because my
it's
family's always been
just
gravy.
sauce.
Yeah, the sauce. Yeah.
Sauce.
Yeah. It's funny because like when you come down to the South and you say gravy, they're thinking biscuits and gravy.
Oh
so
yeah.
it's like
South gravy's got their, but the list of differences between New York, New Jersey, and
True.
the South, we could go on.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear anyone in the restaurant ask for water, I go, what exit on the LI are you
exactly
from?
right.
How'd you know?
Yeah.
Well,
So each individual restaurant. So how did you come up with the concepts for each restaurant, and what is the process? Are you hiring, a chef? You identifying a chef, or how does that work?
yeah, I worked for Danny Meyer. One of the lessons he taught me was with any new concept, you have to have three things to really finalize it. You can start with two of the three, but you got to have three, and it's concept, location, and chef. And he would say that there are differences in how you go about the process between, well, I started with a concept and a location, I had to find the chef. So with Table in Maine, I had the concept, I had the location, I found the chef. With Osteria, I had the chef, we had the location, we had to find the concept. So, it's a slightly different order of operations there, and that has different implications for the creative process. And it is honestly my favorite part of doing this because, I think there's an element of artistry to it. It's creating this world that people get to inhabit. Just the other day, I was having a conversation with a prospective restaurateur, and I was saying, what's fun about this is you go from an idea, one-dimensional, it's all here, to 2D, right? You write it on paper and you have a blueprint, to 3D, like you built it, and then to 4D, which is people are there and the time passes and you're moving and seeing how you were wrong.
Right.
So all of those things, managing that flow is to me the fun part. That's the secret sauce or secret gravy.
There you go. Wherever you're from.
Well, whatever you're from. So Table in Maine, I'd had that idea for a long time. Going to college in upstate New York, you're familiar with a band called The Band?
Yes.
So The Band was the backup band for Bob Dylan back in the day.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan got in a motorcycle
Yeah.
accident. He went to go recuperate in upstate New York. So The Band, his backup band, it's Levon Helm, Robbie Roberts.
Right. Yep.
So they said, all right, well, we lost our guy, so we'll just hole up in a house and maybe we'll put our own album out. That album was music from Big Pink, and it has just a huge status in American music. They've got a song called The Weight. Take a load off Fanny, take a load for free. And I would listen to that song in my car as I drove through the towns mentioned in the lyrics of that song. And the song is about a traveler who goes from town to town in upstate New York, the very towns I would drive through. And all he would want to do is like say hi to his friends and hang out. But every town he would go to, someone would give him another job to do. Take care of my dog, watch this person or whatever. And so I would think, if I ever open a restaurant, I'm gonna have a place where this guy, as the chorus said, could just lay his head and no one would ask anything of him. So that became the origin of Table in Maine, was this sentiment of come here, take a load off, relax, let me worry about getting the food right and all those things. Because what is a restaurant but a place where people go to forget that taxes are due soon and the economy is actually the economy's doing pretty well. There's an election and all this stuff.
Right.
So putting all those pieces together, when we found the space, the space 1028 Kent Street, you've been there. Table in Maine looks very much like we want you to feel when you're there. It's this old, beautiful homestead. Built in 1910, it looks like a farmhouse. That hit right on the cuisine, which was this sort of modern American Southern cuisine. That was very much, this word farm to table was in vogue a while ago. We've never said that because to me, if you're not getting your food from farmers, what are you doing?
Right.
So with us, it was always, we use fresh food. Woody is president of the Roswell Farmers Market right now, but we didn't push that because I thought that was just kind of a given.
Right.
And then that became the restaurant.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your latest edition, right? So this is the one you opened up in Alpharetta.
Yeah, Coalition Food and Beverage.
Yep. Okay. So what was the concept behind that? How'd
so I think in Atlanta and probably across the country, there's this interesting thing that's happening where people have sort of pulled back from the idea of the subdivision. I grew up in a subdivision. You grew up in a subdivision. We all grew up in subdivisions. And people now want this sort of urban live, work, play. I want to be able to work in an apartment upstairs, and then I'm going to go to my townhome, and I'm going to walk to dinner, and I'm never going to leave this sort of downtown center. And we're seeing that explode all throughout Atlanta. First of all, things like the Beltline, which is the talk of development across the world, really drove this idea of walkability and reclaiming these urban spaces. And that has kind of rippled across urban Atlanta. Woodstock, Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, where we are, all of these places are really igniting their downtown core. So as we sort of let the cat out of the bag that we wanted to do another restaurant, Woody, who's the executive chef at Table Maine, came on board with me and my brother. So the three of us are thinking, let's do another spot. All of these downtowns came to us and said, do another Table Maine, do an Osteria. We would love to have you guys in our downtown because everyone wants local.
Right.
Just for emotional and some other reasons, I didn't want to expand Table Maine. That's my first. You always remember your first. I didn't want to do another one of those. Osteria, I don't think the world is swinging that way in terms of fine dining. So we said, well, let's take this opportunity to really define a concept we think we can replicate and do more of, call it scalable, whatever sort of business jargon you want to throw in there. But we said if we want to roll out this concept, it needs to be broadly appealing. It needs to have a better textured story than Chili's. But we've all been to Applebee's and Chili's.
Right.
Sorry, anyone who's watching, no offense. But you go to these places and they have this sort of forced round peg in a square hole of like, we have black and white photos of a football team that we're going to say is like the local team.
Right.
People hate that.
Yeah.
And millennials and whatever it is that comes after us, we hate that stuff. So how can we make a neighborhood bar and grill that has a menu that's very appealing, makes people want to come back and return, and just appeals to the heart of the bell curve? Mm-hmm. What's that space look like? How can we do something that will replace the Chili's and the Ruby Tuesdays and they're dead and dying and not coming back? So the thought became Coalition. It's got that urban industrial feel. It's got this very exciting sort of lot of glass and steel and brick and ductwork exposed and all this cool stuff. We've got this original artwork, these boom boxes by Lyle Werco on the walls, and all of these things that evoke this feeling of here's a downtown space that's kind of coming online and is really exciting. And how could we add to the dialogue of that? So that became Coalition. The menu there, different from Osteria. Osteria, more fine dining. It's got Italian words. Half the time people don't know what an agnolotti is. We could just say ravioli and that might be easier, but that's not the concept there.
Right.
So with Coalition, it's a burger, and we got a Reuben, and we got Southwest chicken chop salad, and we got all of these delicious things that people already know they love.
Right.
It's a lot easier to bring you in the restaurant when you already love the food you see than me trying to explain to you why we don't have chicken parm.
Right, right. So if you, kind of wrapping up here, if you were to give one piece of leadership advice to somebody out there in the business, what would that be?
Specifically the restaurant business?
Yeah, let's go that way.
I would say know what you're getting into and have your head up about it. Because I think a lot of people get sort of blinded by the reasons we discussed earlier, the glamour of it, and it's glitzy, and I throw a good party and I make a good souffle so I can do a restaurant. And I will never dissuade anyone from doing it, despite the fact that there's this mythically high failure rate for restaurants. It is very tough. But if you go into it clear-eyed about what the challenges are, and you've orchestrated your life and your day-to-day to be able to meet those head-on, it's not easier, but your chances of success, I think, are much greater. Take the time to read about it. Take the time to know what a P&L looks like, know how to do an inventory, know how to check a wine order in, and know how to look at your fish that came in and tell, is it fresh, is it what I ordered, did it weigh out right, or are they trying to skim on XYZ? If you can get that blocking and tackling, that 90% failure rate people love to tout doesn't really apply to you, because there's probably a lot of people in there who shouldn't be in the game in the first place. So pick your head up about it. Know that you're going to be missing a lot of weddings and a lot of bachelor parties and a lot of things because you got to be there on a Saturday. And if you get that, I think you'll have your head much more straight about what the challenges are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the episode. If you guys enjoyed it, show some love, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. Also, make sure you check out our exclusive CLevel group on Facebook.